All right, hello and welcome everybody. My name is David Snyder. I am a specialist here with Aladtec, and we're going to be walking through the Aladtec system for your dispatch centers. And I'll be throwing it over here to Eric Hahn in just a few minutes, one of our system specialists, to take you through a quick overview of Aladtec. And we might have some polls along the way, possibly. We'll see what that brings if it comes up. And I'll just give you a brief overview of Aladtec at this time, and then Eric will take you through some of the details of the system. And as I go along the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the questions panel there in the GoToWebinar, and I'll be monitoring that and answer them as I can, and maybe we'll save some of those questions for the end so everybody can hear the answers from Eric. So what is Aladtec here? Let's talk about that. It's a cloud-based scheduling and workforce management software platform. Our system is designed to handle the unique staffing habits of dispatch and comm centers, other public safety agencies. And you'll see that we're here based in River Falls, Wisconsin. And we're about 30 minutes east of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Here's a picture of our building here. Our company started in 2002 as a web-based scheduling system for a local ambulance service, and since then we've grown to host more than 2,400 organizations with 140,000 users across US and Canada. Our dispatch customers range from small sheriff's departments who include entire dispatch, jail, and patrol staff that might total 24 to much more larger consolidated centers who employ 75 or more members. We do everything in-house right here, from engineering to configuration, from sales to support. And here's a nice look at some of our staff. And when you call, you're always going to speak to one of us. You're going to speak to a real person right here in Wisconsin. You can access Aladtec online anywhere via a desktop, tablet, or smartphone. It updates instantly, so your users will always have the most current version of schedules and other content. And there's no extra cost. We provide all setup training and unlimited telephone support as long as you're our customer. With Aladtec, we can create schedules as unique as your department, and as long as you can describe the pattern, we can help you replicate it right here in the schedule. So with that, a little overview of Aladtec, we're going to throw it over here to Eric, who's going to take you through our system and some of the basics and see if it's going to match up for a good fit for your organization. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the questions panel there. And Eric, I'm going to just pass it right over to you.
All right. Let's see here. There we go. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks, Dave. Really our goal here is to just give you a high-level overview of the system, point out several different things in the system that might be interesting for your organization. As Dave mentioned, if you do have questions, definitely dump those into the questions tab and we can get those answered. But we'll be looking at things as an overview. Our goal is that if you're interested enough to look now, that we could actually go start a conversation and get you set up with a custom demo so you can really try it to see if it's going to be a good fit for your organization. We'll be looking at things mostly as an administrator. I'll show you some various things from a member's perspective as well. We are completely cloud-based, nothing to download or install. You just simply pull up the browser of your device. We do recommend a modern browser to access the system. We're constantly adding new features and functionality, and by having those modern browsers update themselves, then you'll have the most recent version every time that you access the system. Everybody does have their own login and password credentials, so they're logging in with their own information to the same location, and things will be different for them, each one of them, as far as looking at things from their perspective. We'll start when we take a look at the information, the Aladtec system. There's several different tabs up at the top that you can navigate to. But I want to start with the dashboard and kind of give you just even a higher level overview of some of the things that the system can handle. On the dashboard, really our system revolves around the schedule. Everything revolves around the schedule and then filters out into reports and other areas. And then revolving around the schedule, there are various changes that happen, and we call those change requests. And essentially we have 4 of those that are built-in functionality within the system. The first one is our time off management. So the system does allow your members to submit time off For being able to submit those for approval, you as an administrator would get a text and email notification, be able to log into the system, and then to approve or deny those requests. We even have the ability to keep track of banks of hours if you did want to keep track of any kinds of accrual banks in the system. Members would physically be able to know how many hours in my bank currently, how many hours for this request, how many hours after it's been approved. And you can customize the different types of time off that you guys would utilize. And then as members would submit those will come here to the dashboard for your approval and your attention. But we'll also look at it, how it affects the schedule as well. The second thing is our trades management. So the system does allow you, if you choose, to enable the trades portion of our system. So if you do allow trading of shifts, the members would be able to facilitate on their end, and then you would get final approval for those before the time would swap on the schedules. And so we've got some different things you can customize with the trades section as well. The third thing is our sign up. So think of that as when you have an open spot in the future, whether it be for a late call out or an overtime shift or any kind of maybe special event, you can actually post that information for people to be able to sign up for those specific spots. We even have a coverage alert that'll allow you to blast that out either simultaneously, or you can actually stagger that with any rules that you might have in place. For instance, if you wanted to initially go to the first person in the list of the most senior person first to offer it, and then allow them to accept or decline, and then it'll move on to the next person, and then so on and so forth. So some options there when it comes to our signups. The last one is what we call our extra hours. So think of that as when you have worked past your normally scheduled shift. Maybe you got held over for an additional 4 hours that were not scheduled. Maybe somebody called out, and that's how you would manage that overtime. This allows you to submit those extra hours requests, or if you got called in early to cover that as well. So anything that's outside of the schedule, you can submit for those extra hours requests so they can be tracked. Those will all come here to the dashboard. Those will all be things that will draw your attention to some things that might need approval. Also within the Aladtec system, and I'll point out, we'd have a very robust member database. It can keep track of all kinds of information, including contact information, emergency contact information, certifications, licenses, really anything that you wanted to assign to a specific individual. You can set up and configure the database to keep track of that. So for instance, things that are expired or any kinds of expiration dates, for instance, certifications or licenses, this will alert you as an administrator that there are some people that have those currently in the system. So you can set up that database exactly to keep track of what you want to keep track of. We also have an events calendar. Think of this as the non-working calendar. Things like meetings, trainings, PR events, open houses, anything you can think of that you don't necessarily have to staff, you can actually create an event for. So we're trying to be that one place where you would go for a majority of your information. So by bringing even those events calendars into it, you don't have to have any kind of shared calendar that people have to access. Everything can be located right in the Aladtec system itself. I did want to mention our home screen is customizable. We've got a few help videos here, but one of the best things that sets us apart from anybody else out there is we offer free and unlimited training. So part of our process is, if you are interested, even after today, of looking at a system in more detail, we can customize that and we can set that up for you. And then we don't just pass along a piece of software if you guys decide to go forward. We actually would schedule the implementation stage. So we would schedule a setup call, we'd set up some training times, and then we would get you rolled out and accordingly to whatever your timetable would be. So that free and unlimited training. We're also constantly adding new features and functionality, and we'll be adding some additional functionality here probably in the next few months. So we are adding things, so it's not a stagnant piece of software that was developed in the 80s. It is something that is new and ready to continue to meet the changes and needs that you have in your departments itself. Also, our support team is our #1 feature. You know, we have a great support team. So when you have a question, you just pick up the phone and call that 888 number, and then you'll be able to talk to one of our friendly tech support people, and they'll help you answer any questions. They'll help you with the system in whatever way that you would need. So really, that's unlimited as well. So we encourage you to utilize our support team with everything. So let's jump over to take a look at a few of the things that I think are some of the important things in the system that you might be looking for. So that first thing I want to point out is that member database. So when you're taking a look at the member database and you want to, for instance, you want to configure the database to see, that's how you would really start. I want to be able to take the information that I have and configure it. So everything we're looking at today, you can do. We can also help you with, but it's as simple as dragging and dropping things from the left-hand side. So you can just drag and drop, some text boxes. Maybe you want an attachment for someone's certification. You can pull in any of those design options to really meet the needs of your department. And then one of the other things that our system does allow you to do is to manage that database. And so we've got a system here that we've pre-populated with some fake employee information, but you can see the information directly. What this allows you to do, since it's an active database, #1, it is your data. At any time you need to get that information out, you can export that information out into a CSV. So if that helps you populate some state records, archive purposes, or just frankly, just taking it somewhere else, we help you get that information out of the system as you need. And then part of that active database is you have some filtering options. So if you wanted to filter out based on certain types of criteria, for instance, any types of positions, maybe you wanted to, the differences, you want to find out who are your supervisors. So you can pull up a list of your supervisors, or maybe you have different needs of different types of positions. So maybe you've got some call takers, some radio positions, some dispatchers. You want to be able to see those people in particular in a different group. You can do several different filtering options. Maybe you've got full-timers and part-timers. Very easy to manage that database and to pull up the information that you directly want to see. Also in the system, we also have the ability to send out text and email notifications. So we have a group messaging option built into the system. So you can send out and blast out a text message. You can blast out an email, or both. It's as simple as just typing the information in here and then clicking, send message. So once people have plugged in their mobile phone numbers and chosen their provider, they can start receiving text messages. Once they've plugged in their email address, they can actually start logging into the system, as well as receiving emails from the system. So nothing to reply to, just being able to broadcast that out is very easy, and that communications tool is built right in. And if we dive one layer deeper, we'll go take a look at Frankie Barber. So each person does have their own profile or their own My Info page. A few things to point out here that you can assign to specific individuals is we have the ability to create some access levels. Think of this as permission to do things on the system. So what you can do is let's say you've got a supervisor that you want to give them the ability to approve some time off or approve any of those signups. You can create an access level for them, for that supervisor. Think of top level administrators have all the rights. Members are restricted on what they can view, what they can do. And then you can create as many access levels as you need to refine those permissions on the system on what you want them to be able to do. We also have work groups. Think of this as the working rules. So if you have any restrictions, for instance, the differences between a full-time employee can work a certain number of hours and a part-time can only work, a separate set of hours or number of hours, or administration, if they're working 8 to 5, can easily set up work groups to distinguish any working rules for them. That would include any things like our change requests. We've got several settings you can set up for those, even work limits, thresholds of overtime. So you can set up as many work groups as you need to. It also does help streamline and target the notifications that get sent for any of those change requests as well. I mentioned those messaging options. This is where the members would be able to update their own information. So one of the benefits is, since the members can log into the system, they can keep their information updated. So if they've got a new phone provider, they can go in and they can make changes to that to keep things up to date, where you don't have to update all that information for them. So very easy to be able to handle those. And then they can choose how they want those delivered. So if they want a combination of text and emails, they can choose that, or if they want just text messages. We even have an upcoming shift reminder, perfect for any part-time employees that are being scheduled at will. What that does is it kicks out a notification 24 hours before your shift that you're scheduled to work. It will also kick out an additional notification if there's been a change to their schedule, even within that 24-hour period. So a great thing for those part-timers when they're scheduled. And it also, if you're moving them from either one position into the other, one schedule to the other, it'll adjust those notifications accordingly. You know, we started back in 2002. You know, we wanted to make sure that we had something in place that would keep the right people working in the right spots at the right time. So we call those work qualifications. And so you can set up different schedules, different positions. So the way that this demo is set up, the schedules are listed based on the shifts, and then also an admin schedule and a training schedule. And then the positions are the positions that are found on those schedules. So as long as people have these check boxes, they can be placed in those specific positions on those schedules. They can trade with other people with those same qualifications. You know, so we want to make sure that the right people work in the right spots at the right time. So in this case, Frankie is not a supervisor, so we don't want anybody to be able to move Frankie into a supervisor position if Frankie's not qualified for that. The rest is pretty generalized, and keep in mind we do customize the database. You know, during our setup call, which is about a 15-20 minute call, we fine tune the member database. We go over the setup area prior to rollout, because we don't want to have a bunch of empty fields that your members will go in and start filling out. If you don't want to keep that information in there, we pull it out or relabel it or whatnot. We can also pull in some information with a couple of clicks. So if you wanted to get some things populated without any extensive data entry, we can actually take the information and just pull it in with a couple of clicks from a spreadsheet. Let's jump over to the schedules. What you'll see is hopefully some things that look promising when it comes to your schedules. You know, at this point too, I do like to kind of throw out a poll. I want to throw out a poll here that we'll take, and we want to see kind of what are you using, or what are you currently using for your scheduling. So as we take a look at the schedules, just take a couple of minutes and fill out that poll for me, and let me know what kinds of things you're using before I jump into this. All right, we'll close that out. Thank you guys for participating in that. You know, as we look at the schedules, we definitely want you to see, let me go start showing there. We definitely want you to see the schedules in a different way. You know, one of the things that you can do is you can actually default the work schedule views to one particular type of view, and then the members would be able to see some other views. But our monthly calendar view is probably our most popular. Very easy to see, kind of a monthly format. You'll also see some additional information on how things would show up on the system. For instance, any of our change requests. So for instance, time off. Notice this one is waiting for administrator to approve. So it is going to be showing on the schedules, and you can actually manage the schedules from this view as well. Here's how some events would show up. So for some training times, you know, maybe meeting in the conference room. Any trades that are happening, it shows who was originally scheduled. Any signups as well. So this will show you some signups that people are waiting to. You know, you've got a 2 o'clock opening here that's going to need to be filled here in the next couple of hours, and you've got a couple of people that have signed up for those, and you can manage that from here. We also do have the ability to set up some minimum staffing. So one of the things that we know that dispatch and communications really strives to meet the needs that they have with their minimum staffing, and know that they need to have this certain number of staffing during this time. This will flag it if there is not that need met, and so we can set up different ways to manage that staffing, not only from a number standpoint, but also from a qualification standpoint, to make sure you have the right staff in place. There are also several other views. If you like to take a look at things like a daily summary view, what this allows you to see is kind of a snapshot of the day. Keep in mind, all of our work schedule views are printable, so you can print off a copy if you still need to post it, or if you want to just keep that as kind of a working document for the day. Keep in mind, every time you push print, things could go out of date because everything is real time and everything is happening in the system itself. If you like to see things, one of my favorite views is a weekly shifts view. You want to see where are my openings during the week. I've got all on the left-hand side, my shift times, my positions, and then who's assuming those positions on the schedule. So I can see I've got an opening here coming up on Friday that I need to cover in the supervisor spot, because I may need a supervisor, or maybe someone can act up into that supervisor role. So you can definitely see how you can look at the schedules. It looked like a lot of you guys might be using spreadsheets. We do have that view. I'll be honest, it's one of my least favorite views, but if you need to see your spreadsheets, you can see that as well. The monthly roster view gives that ability to kind of left-hand justified names, and then the dates at the top and who's working where. So you can default it to one, but you can always go back and see some of the other views. So definitely when, if and when you wanted to take a look at a custom demo, what we would do is we'd actually populate your schedules for you. And then you can actually just really test drive it. Maybe you've got a pilot group of a few people that you want to have see the system. But many ways to see the same information, the same data, just depends on how you like to see things. One of the other views is what we call our My Schedule page. So each member not only has their own profile, or own My Info page, they also have their own My Schedule page. So they can see their own schedule and how they can view that out. We have the ability to set up different types of patterns of scheduling, not only just the manual scheduling. We also have the ability to have members submit availability and other things. But this is also where the members would be able to interact with the system. So they can go right to, for instance, Frankie can go right to the schedule on the 11th, and Frankie can initiate a time off request from here, or initiate a trade request from here as well. So very easy to click on that, and then to choose whatever type of time off, and these are very customizable. And then there can even be a note that can be sent to the administrator for that as well. So members would be interacting and living mostly in this My Schedule page. Any open shifts would show up here that they could sign up for. And then also they can have this sync up with their home calendar, their spouse's calendar, Google Calendar, iCal, Outlook calendar. So very easy to interact with the system from the members side. Also, we are very mobile friendly. Nothing to download or install. You just simply pull up the browser of the device, and what that allows you to do is to formats to that size of screen. So if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, it'll format to the size of the screen. It is a mobile version. Nothing download or install, so you're not keeping any data on any phone. You also don't have to have it update whenever you need to get the newest version. It's always going to be the newest version. It will need an internet connection or a data plan in order to function, but from the mobile view, you'll see the dashboard shows any upcoming shifts, any available trades, any available open shifts, time off, and upcoming events. Even administratively, if you're at home and you're off duty and you've got a couple of time off requests coming through, you can actually pull up the system on your phone and be able to do any of the administrative tasks as well. You can even pull up the daily summary view showing you, okay, who's scheduled to work where. Any of your minimum staffing would be flagged. You can adjust the schedules as you need to. And then that My Schedule page, so the members can go into their My Schedule page and initiate those time off requests or trade requests right from there. So very mobile friendly. We've got about 150,000 users. I'd say probably 90% of them are accessing the system via mobile, and I'd say a majority of those are exclusively mobile. So we definitely encourage you, if you're going to be taking a look deeper, to take a look at that mobile version and how that can be used. As we jump in, we're going to take a look at some administrative things now. So kind of the nuts and bolts, how do I get my schedules to look good? This is exactly how you do that. So these tools are available for administrators. The first one I like to point out is our repeats and rotations tool. So this allows you to set up a pattern for someone to work. So if you are using any kind of, maybe you've got some 8-hour shifts, maybe you've got 12-hour shifts, we can accommodate multiple ways to set up the system, and then you can schedule people onto a pattern. So one of the ones that I know that are pretty frequent to a lot of different organizations is that 2-week type of pattern where someone might be working, a Monday, Tuesday of this week, and maybe a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then a Thursday, Friday of the following week, or Wednesday, Thursday of the following week, or a 2-2-3 pattern. We can set up 12-hour shift patterns. So think of this as pattern-based scheduling, and you can schedule people up to 2 years out into the future. Now, if you do any types of shift bidding or making changes to the schedules, it's pretty easy to navigate that and manage those. One of the things we encourage you to do that first time that you might have, some big changes, don't hesitate to call our 888 and our support team to help you through that and help you understand that. Because that might be something that you might do once a year, and maybe you've sat through the training and you're coming up on that mark where you need to adjust those. Don't be afraid to utilize our support team for that. Or if you've got some maybe some admin staff, they're working Monday through Friday and they've got the weekends off, you can easily set those up. So pattern-based scheduling using our repeats and rotations tool. And then the hourly editor is really going to be your supervisors or your best friend when it comes to adjusting the schedules. So not only can you turn certain things on and off for yourself to see different data, different ways, but you can also do some dragging and dropping. So you can drag and drop people from one schedule to the other or one position to the other. So if you wanted to be more specific and set up the positions based on maybe seats, then you can really populate your schedule. You can move people into the proper seats or proper channels that they would need to use in the system. So multiple ways to configure that, but this is really where you're managing the schedules. So for instance, if Lawrence here has called off come 2 o'clock, he's called in. And we always say this does not circumvent any rules that you have in place. So if Lawrence is supposed to call somebody at the center to call off and kind of a supervisor, that supervisor can go right in and they can submit time off for someone. There's no additional approval steps since they're an administrator within the system. And you can also do different ranges. Maybe he's going to be leaving for just a few hours for an appointment or something of that nature. So you as an administrator have the ability to edit those schedules anytime that you need to. You'll also have an additional tools down here that will automatically calculate the hours. Everything is revolving around the schedule. So this will be able to calculate your regular time. Maybe you have different types of overtime pay or overtime comp or grant monies or training times, anything that you wanted to keep track of. This will calculate those number of hours. And you've got some settings that you can do in the system to pull up the information of what you need to see. Great, for instance, if you've got that opening this afternoon and you need to staff and you have 2 people that have signed up for it, well, if part of your rule is that you give it to the most senior person, then you can see right there that Elaine has more seniority than Herb. And so you can go in there. Or if you wanted to see, okay, the date and timestamp of who has submitted it first, it's easy to manage those and be able to do that right from here. You can even drag people from the bottom section onto the schedule. So very easy to populate those schedules anytime you need to make those changes on the day-to-day. Keep in mind during our training workshop, which is very similar to this, it's a little bit more interactive. We really dive into the hourly editor repeats and rotations and really help your supervisors know what they need to do in the system and really learn the system, fine-tune details of everything that they need to know. And we can do that as many times as you would need to. One of the other things that I wanted to point out as far as transparency is huge for us. And so our change request log is going to show you every change request information that happens. So when someone does submit a time off request, for instance, let me go back here, my screen whited out there. Go back to that change requests. There we go. So this is going to give you a running log of all the requests that have been submitted, and then a request log of all the requests and who has approved what. So you'll be able to track all of that. So if you're sitting there, you're an administrator, and you need to kind of manage some supervisors, this is the perfect way to be able to see that. So you can see what your supervisors are doing when it comes to managing the schedules themselves. And then also along that same lines of the transparency, every action in the system is logged. So you'll know exactly who did what, not only from usage of people logging in, but we've got a great audit trail in the event that somebody says, hey, I thought I did this. You as the administrator can go in and say, okay, this is what you did, and you've got the records to substantiate that. So great when it comes to any kind of grievances or questions about something. Also great if maybe you had to work the floor and you were working on the schedule for next month and you had to go back to that. You want to see, okay, where did I leave off and who was I working on the schedule itself. So great audit trail, all of the actions in the system. And then from a reporting standpoint, so everything that's revolving around the schedule will also get filtered out into the reports. So our scheduled time report is a great example. So not only can you set it up for a pay period, you can see a week, a month. All of our reports are printable and exportable out into a CSV file. So you can take the information. So for instance, here's Frankie's records for the month of August, and it's going to show all of the start stop times, the schedules and the positions, and then the time types, including an irregular time, any PTO, and then that will allow you to really manage it yourself. So you can pull in, maybe you want to pull in some extra hours, maybe you want to include an overtime threshold that you might have set up in the work groups. Maybe you need to split out weekends, weekdays, and holidays. We just had a great holiday a few days ago. Maybe that's split out that you need to track those separately. You can also pull in some member database information. Maybe you've got some employee ID numbers that you wanted to pull in. You could format the report to show you exactly what you need to see. And then once you're done with that, you can export that out. If that helps you be able to update some payroll manually, or if your payroll software does allow you to do some importing of that CSV or that spreadsheet, it's very, very seamless. You can get that information out of there, do any additional tweaking that you need to do, and then import that in. We also do integrate with, we have some integration options for payroll softwares as well. You can explore those with your salesperson if you have those questions as well. So printable and exportable. You can also run, like for instance, a summary report is going to strictly show you the numbers. Maybe you wanted to run a custom range of an entire year's worth of how much overtime have you paid out. So when you're sitting at that meeting and that annual meeting, you're looking to hire some additional staff. Maybe you've been short staffed for a long time and you need to hire those. You can see how many overtime hours that you've paid out and see if some additional staff would be able to help alleviate some of those costs, some of those cost things that you need to pull back. So a great tool. Summary reports is strictly going to show you the numbers, but once again, printable and exportable in the system. Included in the system, you do have 200 gigabytes worth of storage, a perfect place for things like SOPs, SOGs, contracts, training files, videos, folders, create some operating procedures. Easy to access the system since we are cloud-based. You don't have to be at the center in order to pull something up. You can actually utilize our storage area. 200 gigabytes worth of storage. You can create folders, so only certain groups of people will have access to those. You can keep some personnel files on there as well. And then our forms tool is really over and above the schedule. So think of this as taking something that you might do in paper or some other thing that you might pay for and making it electronic within the Aladtec system. We're trying to be that one place where you're coming from majority of that information. So we've got several samples that we've accumulated over the years. A great one is our shift turnover. So this is where maybe your supervisors are going in and they're adding some information. Okay, what happened during the shift that might carry over to another shift, or we all know that there's never any equipment problems that happen in the centers, and so we have a form that you can use if that happens. What happened. You can create these. You can even design your own. You can start from scratch just by pulling in, dragging and dropping from the left-hand side. So we do have several different samples in our database. COVID obviously is a hot thing right now. We had one of our longstanding customers add a screening form into the system. And so what they're able to do is their members prior to their shift, they go in and they fill out the COVID screening form. They just select what day it is, select their name, and then they click yes or no in the check boxes, sign their name, and then they can submit that. Every form then will dump out into its own report so you can see if there are any trends. Each form does have the ability to set up some triggers, some notifications in the event you need, maybe if there's a yes to a cough or a temperature, then that can trigger a notification to a supervisor and admin staff. So you can create as many forms as you need to, and it's unlimited the number of forms that you'd submit as well. So the samples are there, but if you do have some that you're already using and set in place, we can help you get those plugged in as well. So we can help you take that from a paper or a spreadsheet or maybe some other system and then plug it into the Aladtec system to help you bring everything under that one umbrella when it comes to your schedules and personnel. One of the other features that I love, are required messages feature. So if you've ever sent an email or a text message to an employee and you had no idea if they ever read it or they didn't respond to it, well, we're hoping that we'd be a system that your members would be logging into quite frequently too. So as they log in, you can actually create a message for people's home screens. So you can set it for the group of people, you can set it for the individual or certain access levels. So if I just pick on Frankie some more, you can set that message. So the next time that Frankie would log into the system, which I'll virtually log in as Frankie, that they cannot get any further into the system. I'm clicking on these tabs at the very top. I can't get any further in the system until I check this checkbox that says that I agree that I've read and understood this message. Now, I can't guarantee they've read it or understood it, but in some way, shape, or form, they are accountable for it. And so in this case, Frankie can click continue. And now you as an administrator can go back to those and you can see the previous required messages and you've got a date and timestamp for those. So great for use for friendly reminders, great for use for maybe having people update their certifications or their licenses. Also a great reminder, maybe you've got a newsletter that you like to put out maybe once a month. You can actually copy and paste that information into here so you know that people will have access to it and that you've got a read receipt for those. So a lot of different options when it comes to some accountability, that accountability buzzword that we hear quite often. It's a great tool for that. Also, top level administrators can get to the setup area. So this is one of those things that we do help you through as you do the implementation stage. I was mentioning access levels. You can create some additional access levels. You can add in some coverage alerts and what types those are, any rules that you'd have in place. Any external links, since we want to be that one place where you go, you can add in some external links for maybe things like payroll, HR, maybe webmail. Very easy to do that. Create some forms folders, add any holidays that you'd observe, set your pay periods. This is also where your system specialist would set up your schedules, but you can also go in and you can add some additional schedules. So if you have, maybe you're doing once a year, you have to staff a special event. You can actually create a special event to exist for only that period of time. Once you're done with it, you can archive it, and then you can be able to pull the records for it, but then it pulls it from people's view. So this is where you'd be able to set up even some of the minimum staffing options. So great customizations that you can do for the schedules. Customizing those time off types and those accrual banks help you. We can even pre-populate those accrual banks prior to rolling out of the system. So if you're using something else and you're migrating to the Aladtec system, you can have those balances up to date. Adding any different time types, so mentioning those overtime types of codes or grant monies or other types. And then our work groups really allows you to set up those working rules in the system and create those groups of people in there. So definitely some options when it comes to taking a look at some of those. What I would say, the back end portion, and we would walk you through that, not just leave you to figuring that on your own. So that's really everything that I wanted to show you today. I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Dave to kind of finish things up. But we do encourage you. One of the things I do want to point out lastly is, we encourage you to reach out. If you're interested in taking a look at a deeper look and a trial, call that 888 number. You can see our support line here. We want to definitely encourage you to take a deeper look and to help understand the system and if it's going to be a good fit for you. So thank you for your time, and I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Dave.
All right, Eric, thank you very much. Yes, and again, just to follow up with that, if you want to look at in the chat section too as well, in the GoToWebinar panel, we have an automatic link in there that you can access to sign up for a free demo. And of course, we can take it from there, and you have a free trial to try it out with your own information. We can even set up a custom system for you to do that. And if you have any questions about our company, there's the link there as well to take you to our website to see reviews and more videos and things like that. So take advantage of that, and you can call us or email us anytime. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to hear from some of you soon. Thank you, and have a great day.